Hello everyone, I'm Ashlee Norman and I am super pumped to be teaching you why you need TBH True Beautiful Honest Color Line by Schwarzkopf Professional. Let's get to it. We created 4 unique looks on 4 different models with 3 different scenarios. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over the formulation and breakdown of how I came up with it for each model specific to solving their common scenarios. Now, the first scenario that we're gonna talk about is high contrast blonding. If you are like me and you specialize in blonding on levels 5 and below, you might run into the issue of having hair color that has too much extreme dark and light. What do I mean by that? Let's take a look at our level finder. Let's talk about someone who might be, let's say for example, a level 2, and we highlight her all the way maximum blonde to a level 10. So what you're end up looking at is 2 strands of hair. You have the darkest natural base sitting next to the highlighted hair. Now what happens is this can end up looking like piano teeth. Not so sexy. So what we have to do is not only tone the level 10 and create a transition of color, fade from darker to lighter in the highlighted hair, but what we also have to do is lift or shift the dark natural base to soften the contrast between the darker level and the highlighted hair. Let's get into it. Our first model that we're gonna talk about is our gorgeous Jackie. She came in with super beautiful natural level 2. There was some old tint on the ends, but mostly virgin through the root and the mid-length. And what we had to do here was create a lived-in, low-maintenance balayage effect on her natural dark level, but also again soften the contrast. So what do I mean by that? Here we have our head sheet. This strand right here represents the natural base color. So her natural base was a level 2. We did a form of balayage inside of foil to create this strand of hair, which is our highlight. We lifted her to about a level 9. So now we have, again, a level 2 sitting next to a level 9. Now what we want to do is a shadow root and gloss on the level 9 to create ombre, fade from dark to light. We chose levels 5 and 6 at the roots, level 7 at the mid-length, and levels 9 through to the ends. So what we created was a fade from level 5 and 6 into a level 7 into a level 9. So let's say, for example, the highlighted hair faded from a milk chocolate into a white chocolate. Gorgeous, right? The only issue is now that level 9 is still sitting next to the level 2 towards the ends. So we've created our fade from dark to light in the highlighted strand of the hair. But what if we wanted to create a fade from darker to lighter in the natural base color, or a double blend? So for example, what if we wanted the level 2 to lift up a few levels to maybe, I don't know, maybe a 4, 5 into a 6. In this case, now the base color is fading from dark chocolate into milk chocolate. The highlight is fading from milk chocolate into white chocolate. If we only used a demi-permanent gloss, yes, we can address the highlighted hair because it's deposit only. But a demi-permanent gloss is not going to create the lift in the natural base color. So it's not going to soften the contrast. It's not going to create the double blend. Now I know what you're going to say. Well, if I tone with permanent color, which does have the ability to lift and deposit, then I'm gonna run to two issues. One issue is if I shadow root with a level 5 and 6 permanent color, let's say for example an Agora, it has an opaque coverage. Now opaque coverage does leave a line of demarcation on the grow out and is harder to lift out later. So if I shadow it with permanent color, not only is it gonna be a high maintenance grow out, but it's also gonna be an issue when she comes in for her highlight retouch. That's one of the problems with toning with permanent color. The other common issue with toning with permanent color is that it does have the ability to lift. Now what if it creates a brassy base break, exposure of warmth that is unwanted, right? So if we used level 7 and levels 9 on a level 2 with a typical permanent color, it could create some unwanted red and orange in the mid-lengths and the ends. Now, TBH is not your typical permanent color, and it's also not a demi. It's somewhere in between. It's a hybrid. It's a solution that you've never seen before, and it's truly unique. So let me explain. I know you want to learn about the pH scale if you don't already know, but this is important information to understand how this truly unique product works. We have a hero product that is unlike anything you've ever seen in the Schwarzkopf Professional color line, and it is called Tone Softener. Now, what the heck does this stuff do anyway? Let me show you how this works. Well, as we know, 7 is neutral, below 7 is acidic. Above 7 is alkaline. Typically, you need an alkalizer to lift or lighten hair. If we're talking about permanent color typically has ammonia. So our TBH line does have ammonia in it, although it does have 50% less ammonia than the Schwarzkopf Agora. Now, the alkalizer within the permanent color line depends on the level. Of course, your level 1 has less ability to lift and therefore less ammonia content. Your level 10, on the other hand, has much more ability to lift and therefore more concentration of our alkalizer, more ammonia. So it depends on the amount of ammonia on where it actually lands on the pH scale. These pHs are not exact, this is in general. Color doesn't lift color. So if we want to lift through artificially tinted hair, we have to use something stronger, something more alkaline. This is where we talk about our lightener category. Typically in lighteners, our alkalizer is what we call persulfates. Again, it depends on the actual lightener itself in terms of where it lands on the pH scale. Some lighteners have less persulfates and therefore are softer lift. Some lighteners have more persulfates and therefore are more aggressive. So typically, for example, maybe a clay lightener is more of your gentle lightener type, working in towards maybe an oil, and then you have your powder ranges. And even within the powders, some have different varying levels of lift. The point is that the more alkalizer, the more alkaline the product is, the more power to create lift. This is important to understand. Why? Because we're talking about adding in something called tone softener into our permanent color. So the way I mixed all of the formulas on our 4 models was 1:1:1 with tone softener. What do I mean by that? Equal parts, 1 part permanent color, 1 part tone softener, and 1 part peroxide. So you're actually mixing this into the bowl with your peroxide and your permanent color. Why would we do this? For 2 main reasons. Number 1, if you look at the pH scale and you already know alkalinity creates the power of lift, and you're putting in tone softener, which happens to live at about 4.5, which is the natural pH of hair, you already know you're cutting down the alkalinity, cutting down the power to create lift. So let's say, for example, when we mix in 1 part permanent to 1 part peroxide, which is also on the acidic side, to 1 part tone softener, what are we doing? We're taking this permanent color and we're dropping down the pH to make it live somewhere in between a true permanent and maybe a demi-permanent. So maybe it's somewhere in between here. Again, hybrid. It's a hybrid between permanent and semi-permanent. So what are we trying to achieve with our TBH hybrid color line? Now remember what I was saying about toning with permanent color and how it creates an unwanted exposure of warmth? Well, what if you mix the tone softener in with your permanent color to cut down the alkalinity, cut down the ammonia content for softer lift, less exposure of warmth? A cooler base breaker, right? So this is number one, what tone softener does. It cuts down the ammonia content to lower the pH, cut down the power to create lift for less exposure of warmth. This is incredible because you get the most amazing, soft, subtle lift, again, having the ability to tone with permanent on a level 2, even up to 20 volume without creating brass. Just enough to take the level 2 and walk it up into the softer chocolates, again, creating that double blend, softening the contrast between the dark natural level 2 and the highlighted hair. So now let's revisit our first model's formula one more time. So here we have Jackie's formulation. We have her level 2 fading from 2, 4, 5 into a 6. And we have her highlight fading from 5, 6, 7 into a 9. We have 3 different formulas that we melted. Formula A, B, and C. We used a level 5 natural brown, equal parts with a level 6 ash violet, which in TBH translates to level 5, 06, and level 6, 19. 1 to 1 to 1 with 6 volume. Now 6 volume is intended for deposit only. So if you're taking a level 6 permanent color and you're mixing it 1 part permanent to 1 part tone softener to 1 part 6 volume, and you're using that as a shadow root on a level 2, are you really gonna lift a level 2? Probably not. So this is gonna be more of a deposit only shadow root. Next, our formula is a level 7 in the midtone. We also used this level 7 as the shadow root at the hairline. So we did a lighter shadow around the face. The level 7 was 7 ash brown, which translates to level 7 ash brown. 1 to 1 to 1 with 13 volume. So 13 volume is gonna start to shift, right? And a level 7 has more ammonia than a level 5 and 6. So now we're gonna start to see the lift in the mid-length. So we're not base breaking her roots. Sometimes people think base breaker means on scalp, right? But that's gonna create a hot root, which is the exact opposite of what we wanna do. We wanna create a shadow root, not a hot root. So this is why we went with a 6 volume in the root area. Now we're bumping it up to 13 volume to start and see that shift. The last formula was levels 8, 9, and 10. Levels 8, brown, gold, violet. Levels 9, gold, violet, violet. And level 10, ash violet. This translates to the level 8, 6, 4, level 9, 4, 9, and level 10, 1, 9. Now I bumped all the way up to 20 volume to pull through to the ends. So I was looking to see a lot more shift, again, a fade from darker to lighter in the natural base. Now it would typically be scary to take a level 9 permanent color and throw it on a level 2 as a toner, because again, it would create brassy exposure of warmth. I don't have to worry about that because the tone softener is taking care of that problem. I know what you're thinking. I still didn't answer your other question, which was, now wait a minute, you're still doing a shadow with permanent color. Isn't that gonna create opaque lines of demarcation? Well, my friends, that's the other benefit of using the tone softener. The second thing that tone softener does is it dilutes the opacity. So what do I mean by that? If you look up the definition of opaque, it means absorbs light. The definition of translucent is light passes through. So if you're toning highlights, do you want to absorb the light over your highlights? No. You want the light to pass through your highlights. I mean, why are you highlighting the hair unless you wanted multidimensional coverage, right? So therefore, if you're using the tone softener, you're diluting the opacity, creating a more dimensional deposit, which creates more similar to, let's say, for example, the demi-permanent line within Schwarzkopf Professional, which is Vibrance. Now this line is gonna have a little bit more coverage than Vibrance. Again, hybrid between your Agora and your Vibrance. Hybrid between a true permanent and a demi. So when I say dimensional coverage, you're still gonna see the highs and lows. Let's say, for example, you're wrapping someone's package for Christmas, right? And you could do an opaque wrapping paper, and so they can't see what's inside that package. Or you could make a really pretty gift basket, right? Put all the things in the gift basket and put a little cellophane over it. You can still see the gifts inside, but it has that tint of whatever color cellophane you put around the basket. That's what I mean about dimensional coverage. All right, friends, if you learned something today and you enjoyed this educational content, don't forget to like and subscribe.